Hi, this is Stan Higgins, independent owner of Postech Winnipeg Screw Piles. Just doing a quick video here for you today to show you how to place screw piles for your deck. What I've got here is an example of a deck design from a customer of ours, a potential customer of ours I should say, and we're just looking at putting the piles out for their deck in order to give them an estimate. So what I recommend is just looking for the furthest length on the deck. That's going to be your best point usually for a main beam. So in this case, a main beam running in this direction would be your most efficient design rather than having a beam running over here and then several beams running in this direction here. So what we would do is we just start off by placing screw piles in each corner of the deck. So we got one there and we got one here. Now what I've done is I've placed the screw piles approximately 1 foot from each side. So 1 foot off of the side here, 1 foot from the end of the deck. So that's considered an overhang. So I like a 1 foot overhang. The reason being is that it just gives you some wiggle room. So if you hit a rock or if the pile marking was a little bit off or something, most likely it's still going to fall in underneath the deck. And then also, if you wanted to later convert part of this or in full into a sunroom, you can't have more than usually a 16-inch overhang, at least in Winnipeg, in order to build your sunroom. So if you're keeping it under that 16 inches, you should be okay to look at a future conversion. So now what we've done is we've reduced this 22 foot 8 inch, we'll call that 23 foot, down to about 21 feet from pile to pile. So approximately every 7 feet, so about every 7 feet, we're going to put a pile. And then that's going to give us, in reality, about 6 foot 11 inches from pile to pile. And that's distance is going to be the same here as it is here. And then we have that 1 foot and that 1 foot, and then we're one off the edge. So we've actually created a main beam support system here, and we've kept our spacing under 8 feet between piles, which is important. If you want to exceed 8 feet between piles in Winnipeg, you're going to need an engineer's seal of approval on that. The next thing that I would typically look at is this sort of funny portion of the deck over here. This is where some people often will get a little bit confused. They might look to create another ledger on the home here, and then do a pile over here and a pile over here with a beam running this direction, a beam running that direction, have some joists going this way. And really what you're doing is you're building two decks within the same deck, and that just creates a whole lot of confusion because you have to put blocking between your joists if you want them, your decking running in a consistent direction, and you're also adding an extra pile potentially to the design that you may not need. So what I would recommend is actually put a joist hanger on the house right here, about a foot in from the edge of the deck, and then do your other pile again. Same thing, 1 foot from the side, 1 foot from the side. And then what you've got now is a beam that's going to be running in this direction, and it's going to allow you to keep your joists, which are running this way, absolutely 100% consistent. So now you're really building just one deck, even though it's got a little bit of a change in direction. And that's going to make everything easier, and it's also going to be your most efficient, cost-effective way to build. Now that we're talking about joists, one of the things that we want to make sure is that we're not exceeding any of our allowable joist spans. So in this case, we look at the city's got a deck joist span guide here for us. As you can see, the 2x8 joists, 16 inch on center, which is sort of the standard spacing, is allowed 14 foot 2 inches. So we just got to make sure that we don't have any spans which exceed 14 foot 2 inches. So in this direction here, we've got 8 feet, and then we've got a 1 foot overhang, so we're safe all this portion of the deck. And then where it gets a little bit longer for joist spans here, we've got about 12 feet total. So in reality, we should be okay with that as well. Or actually, I guess we got 14 feet. So in total, 9 foot and 5 foot. So if we've got 14 feet, we're kind of nearing, our allowed span. So one of the options, I guess you have two options. You could look at going with 12 inch on center, 15 foot 7 inches, or you could look at going and using a 2x10 joist at 17 foot 4 inches span. So it really is up to you. If you want to do a really solid deck, what I would suggest is maybe bumping it up to the 2x10. But you could still go with a 12-inch on center. It's still going to make it. But you'd only have to do that section here. So all your joists would be 12-inch on center if you're using 2x8s in this one area. Or you can use 2x10s for the entire deck, and you can space them all at 16 inches on center. The choice would be yours. Now that we've done this, it's important to note, I guess we'd be using a ledger on the home. What a ledger does is it's a piece of wood that ties into the structure of your home and provides support to the rest of the deck. If you do a ledger, then you minimize the number of piles you require. If you're not doing a ledger and you want the entire deck supported on piles, you just add another row, so you'd end up with another probably 3 piles here with 8-foot spans, and then you'd have to do another pile over here. One of the things is that homes are typically built with footings and with weeping tiles, so you want to make sure that the piles are spaced out at least 16 inches from the house so that you're not going to be damaging those things and creating more headaches than what you want to create. To figure out capacity, which is something you now have to do in Winnipeg, is I just suggest just lettering your piles A, B, C, D, E. And what you used to be able to do, you used to be able to take the total square footage of the deck, divide it by the number of piles and ledgers in order to figure out what your capacity is per pile. It would give you an average capacity, but it would be misleading, because one of the things you have to note is that piles like B and C are carrying more of a load than A and D that that have to support as much deck. So this distance here all has to be supported by this one pile, where this one's only supporting a small distance and then the same distance this way, a larger distance this way. So A and B in reality have to carry different loads. I'll show you how to calculate load. So we'll start with A. So A, and load seems difficult, but it's actually really simple math. If you got to figure out how much of the deck it's supporting in this direction here. How we do that is pretty simple. We go from the center of the pile to the next support area. That's 8 feet. This pile A has to support half of that, so that's 4 feet. And then it also has to support this overhang of 1 foot. So 4 plus 1 is 5 feet of deck supporting in that direction. And then you multiply that by the amount of deck it has to support in the other direction. So in this case, we're going to call this 7 feet for simplicity. So that's 3.5 feet that it has to support. This pile is going to support the other 3.5 feet of that span. And then you add 1 foot to that. So times 4.5 feet. That's multiplied again by 50 pounds per square foot in Winnipeg. That's how you, they want, for every square foot of deck, they want 50 pounds of support. So in total here, you're going to wind up with about 1,125 pounds support required by this pile. Go to pile B, and now you can see the difference. So pile B has to support the same amount of deck in this one direction as pile A. So that's easy. We know that's 5 feet. But when we look at these other directions here, we've got 7 feet running this way, 7 feet running this way, half of that supported by this pile and in this direction, half of it by this pile in this direction. So we'll say it's 3.5 plus 3.5, so times 7 feet. Again, that's at 50 pounds square foot. It's going to bring us to about 1,750 pounds. So now we know that B has to support more than A. I'll leave that in terms of calculations. You can figure out the rest. If you wanted to pile the stairs in Winnipeg, that's optional. What I would suggest is just putting a pile in each corner, and also where the stairs might change direction. That way you can have a beam running in this direction, and this direction here. But like I said, those are optional. And can be decided even at a later time because the fact that they are optional. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions, you can call me at 204-793-8255. 0653. You can email your deck plans to me at stan@screwpiling.ca, and I'll let you know how you can place your Postech thermal piles. And if you want to visit us online, learn a little bit more, visit us at screwpiling.ca. Thanks very much.